He said 3. Go get it.
Hey, Stinky.
Today, the woman shot to death inside a Home Depot in Pensacola is being identified as 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims. We have a copy of the arrest report, and as WKRG News 5's Alexa Daly tells you, it says the victim and the man now charged with murder used to be a couple.
We're still looking at the motive, trying to figure out exactly why he did this, certainly why he did this on that date in such a public area. But there was a past relationship, so it is considered to be domestic violence.
On a sunny afternoon in August in Pensacola, Florida, an 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims would be at work at the Home Depot that was located on 5309 North Davis Highway in Pensacola, Florida. Brooklyn had been working as a contracted inventory employee inside that Home Depot on a day she would tragically be gunned down by her disgruntled baby daddy, who accused her of giving him something that had him tripping out. In the midst of the chaos inside of that Home Depot, on aisle 52, where everything went down, 2 other people would be hit by stray bullets as 20-year-old Keith Agee opened fire on Brooklyn. Of those 2 innocent bystanders, one would take a bullet to the hand and the other would be grazed on the back. Keith would then run out the store the same way he came in, leaving his child's mother unalive on the ground with over half a dozen bullet wounds. This is the story of a beautiful young girl taken away too soon, plus of a boy who turned into a monster and the horrific pain that was left on their family. 20-year-old Keith Eric Agee Jr. was born January 6, 2003, to a now 54-year-old Keith Sr. and a now 50-year-old Sheila Rivers Agee in Alabama. Now, I will be blurring Keith Sr. and some other family members out as I talk about this case because they've stayed out of the limelight during this tragedy. Now, by all accounts, Keith Jr. or Little Keith seemed to have a decent life growing up with both his mother and his father in his life. Though Keith Jr. was the oldest sibling of Big Keith's and Sheila's 2 kids, Sheila also had an older son from a previous relationship. The then couple at the time would end up having a little girl who would be born January 2009. Now, according to Sheila's social media, she was with Big Keith for a couple of decades or so, but it did not come without its fair share of challenges. It seemed that Sheila had always been vocal and kind of hot-headed herself. She would post all kinds of things about Big Keith when he seemed to be getting fed up with her antics. It also looked as things were off and on over the years with them before finally in 2018 calling it quits officially. From my personal research, Sheila seemed to be close with all her kids, but had an extra special bond with Little Keith. Little Keith, from what I can tell, got away with way more from his mother and stayed up under her. This is definitely, in my opinion, where things turn bad. I can see that Big Keith loved him more than ever and wanted Little Keith to make good decisions, but his mother had a grip on him, and that would eventually lead him down the road of no return. Big Keith will always show love to Little Keith with posts like this one that says, "No matter what you're going through, son, you still are my heart and soul, and I love you more than words could ever say." Little Keith is Big Keith's only son and was always happy to have all 3 of his kids under one roof, according to him. Big Keith had another daughter that was born just a short time, either before or after the daughter him and Sheila had together, because both of them are currently right now in the 9th grade and living with their dad. Now, it's unclear if he and Sheila were split at the time when he had another child, but remember, they were off and on over the years, so who knows. But Keith is big on family and loves travel, adventure, and is also currently engaged and has been with his soon-to-be wife for almost 3 years, and the family looked happy and complete. Sometimes Little Keith would get in on the action and enjoy vacations with his father and the rest of the family, and Big Keith was very proud of his son and probably saw the good side of him when they were together. Also, Little Keith was truly loved by his sisters and was said to be a great big brother. Now, going forward, I'm just going to call him Keith. I just didn't want anyone to get confused between him and his father. However, sadly, Keith would head down the wrong road and start to make some very bad decisions. Now, since he was 18, he would be arrested multiple times. A few things he was picked up for was harassing communication and assault 3rd degree, January 18th of 2022, domestic violence 3rd degree, April 14th, 2022, and according to a news article, Keith was said to have anger issues as well. I wonder where he could have got that from. And allegedly threw a brick through his mother's window on one occasion. He also had misdemeanor assaults on others and allegedly protective orders against him from 2 different women, with one saying that he threatened to shoot her, allegedly. He was also arrested February 2023 on domestic violence charges that were dismissed in May 2023. Little Keith had a hard time controlling his anger issues, and his mother knew it, but it seems she was too toxic herself and boosted him up. It looks like in some sort of weird way, Sheila wanted her son to be the opposite of his father, Big Keith. So it looks like she might have started feeding him with lies and tried to destroy their relationship. It was said that she was very jealous when he moved on, and possibly so. I mean, you can literally see what anger and rage can do to you. These pictures are 5 years apart, and not being funny, but it seems that she has not aged gracefully. She would make posts saying how she looks like this and how she looks like that, and now look at her. With all due respect, she truly looks like she could be Little Keith's grandmother. Being bitter and mean will definitely age you quick. Sometime around the fall or summer of 2020, that's when Keith, then 17, will meet a young girl by the name of Brooklyn Sims through a mutual friend. At the time, Brooklyn would be 15 years old and a freshman in high school. The two would begin talking as friends, and then things would turn to more than that. And by the beginning of 2021, she would become pregnant with her daughter, who would be born October 15, 2021. Brooklyn would name her Casey Brooke Agee and was overjoyed to have her daughter. Even though she was a young mother, Brooklyn was ready to take on motherhood and seemed to be way wise beyond her years. She was described as very loving and a devoted mother. To know Brooklyn was to love her, her family said. She could light up any room when she walked in it, and she was just a true light of this world. Brooklyn was so young, with her whole entire life ahead of her, until August the 11th, 2023. That is the day that would shock the nation because of how evil the act was that took place inside of that Home Depot, and because of the alleged person who was involved in the planning. If we go back a week or two before that August date, Keith said that he and Brooklyn were trying to work things out and had been linking up. According to Keith, the last hookup was on the weekend of August 5th or 6th. Apparently, Keith started thinking he had something and that Brooklyn gave it to him. Brooklyn would go get tested and would come back all clear, negative. And she would send that information over to Keith's mother. So she was in the clear, and clearly Keith was messing with another woman, if not more than one. And I will explain in a minute. However, he was set on blaming her, and he would go get himself checked out on August 8th, according to him. While at work in Calvert, Alabama, on August 11th, the urgent care where he checked himself out at would call him with his test results, and they said he had gono. And this is the excuse that he later would give the jury about snapping. See, after things went down at the Home Depot, people would take to social media and say way too much. On one hand, you had a young lady saying Keith was her man right now, and he did what he did for a reason. There is no justification for what he did. And why would you be proud to claim a man who apparently was not just sleeping with you, but unalive someone too? Then on the other hand, it was also alleged that Keith was sleeping with multiple women, so no telling who he got gono from. In all truth, he did not want to let Brooklyn go and wanted to control her. So the day of the shooting, he drove from Calvert, Alabama to Pensacola, Florida, which was about an hour and a half, to that Home Depot, and he did the unthinkable. Keith would be seen on the surveillance cameras. About 1:20 p.m. walking into the store and going to aisle 52 where Brooklyn was working. He said when he walked up to her, he would say to her, "You gave me gono." And she said, "Not this again," and turned to walk away from him. And that's when Keith said he pulled the trigger and shot her multiple times. Seconds later, people would be seen running from aisle 52. Then Keith Agee runs back towards the entrance. He runs into the parking lot then, gets into his silver four-door sedan, and exited the parking lot at a high rate of speed towards Duval Street. The sheriff's office would arrive on the scene and quickly broadcast the information about the suspect on the radio. Soon after, Keith called 911 a short time later on Bayou Boulevard, and he surrendered to the police and was taken into custody without incident.
I'm going to call them back to you. Okay. You'll let them know on the radio. Okay. I'm going to call them back to you.
Because we're going to call him back.
Everybody be quiet. Everybody turn around, face away from me. Stay just like that. Walk backwards to the sound of my voice. Keep walking backwards. Keep walking backwards just like that.
Hey, Cody,
Keith will be charged with first-degree premeditated unaliving and aggravated battery, according to the police. A few days will pass, and the family will have a balloon release to celebrate the life of Brooklyn, and Keith's mother, Sheila, will be in attendance. What was not known at the time, Sheila played a major role in the unaliving of Brooklyn. On August 14th, deputies announced Keith wasn't working alone. See, Sheila also worked at the Home Depot and was the one who told Brooklyn about the job. She even took Brooklyn to work that day. According to text messages, it's clear that Keith's mother, Sheila, knew and participated in the planning of the unaliving of Brooklyn, the sheriff's office said. In a news release, additionally, text messages between the mother and son highlights the mother's involvement in helping locate the victim. The sheriff's office shared a lengthy text conversation between Keith and his mother, in which Keith tells his mother he is going to injure Brooklyn, according to the release. His mother doesn't try to talk him out of it, but instead provides Brooklyn's location and says, "As long as you don't injure me." Sheila then said she'll send Keith the address of the Home Depot, then told him to delete the text messages, according to the release. She also said Brooklyn would be on the store floor and that Keith wouldn't have to go searching for her in the back, the text messages read. His mother ended their message exchange with the message, "Do whatever you want to do. It don't affect me either effing way," according to the report. Keith's mother will be charged with principal to first-degree unaliving and was taken into custody in Alabama and extradited back to Pensacola, Florida. She was held with no bond and is currently awaiting her trial.
At this time, the bond will remain a no bond. You'll be ordered to have no contact with any witnesses.
Sheila Agee, the mother of shooting suspect Keith Agee, making her first appearance before a judge in Escambia County, facing principal to murder charges. The arrest report released this week states Agee played a major role in the killing of Brooklyn Sims through her text conversation with her son. Much of the report details those text messages between the two provided by the sheriff's office. She's accused of providing her son with an alternative plan for the murder different than his plan to shoot Sims in the parking lot, providing the exact location of where Brooklyn Sims could be found, and also advising him not to tell his nanny because she'll try and talk him out of it.
In a news release, a spokesperson for the sheriff's office said, "The unaliving itself is unbelievable, but to know the mother knew about it and helped coordinate it is incomprehensible." And that's true. What kind of human does that? She was your granddaughter's mother. How could someone be so cold and calculated? Since this all happened in Florida under the Florida law, the principal theory can be liable for another person's crime in certain circumstances. Under that theory, person can be treated as if they've done all the things charged if the person has a conscious intent for the criminal act to be done or did some kind of act or said words was intended to incite, encourage, assist, or advise the other person or persons to actually commit the crime. This is exactly what she did to a T. In between the time of the tragedy and the weeks before Christmas 2023, when the trial started for Keith, Brooklyn would be laid to rest August 26th, and her daughter is currently being cared for by both sides of the family. Though her mother's shoes can never be filled, she can still get that love she deserved. In so many of these cases, things happen right in front of the kids. But Casey was not around and is too young to understand what happened, and that's the only positive thing right now. Casey also turned 2, and that was the first birthday without her mother, but I'm sure her family and loved ones filled in the gaps that day. Once the trial started on December 18th, it would be over by December 20th for Keith. He would get life, and in Florida, that means just that, because a life sentence doesn't have parole in Florida. He will never raise his daughter, and he made the decision when he took Brooklyn's life. Now, since Casey is around both sides of her family, he may see her, but like Brooklyn's mother said in court, he will have to be the one to tell her what he did to her mother. And that is sad within itself, horrible. But Keith seemed to smirk when he took the stand, and it just doesn't sit right with me, especially when he recalled what he did to Brooklyn. Just mind-blowing. Seems like he had no remorse, but at the same time, he apologized for what he did. I'm not the judge and ruler, but him never getting out is probably saving another woman who may have ended up to be one of Keith's victims in the future. And that's just my personal opinion. After the ruling was handed down, the judge will go on to say, this is a textbook definition of premeditated unaliving. The results were also shown in the court that Brooklyn was negative and didn't have anything. It had nothing. So it makes Keith look even crazier. Keith's mother is awaiting trial too as well, but I believe when the jury sees those text messages and what she said, she will most likely see the same fate as Keith, possibly. Just a dirty shame. Very, very, very sad. Sweet Brooklyn will be turning 19 if she was alive in January 2024, and she had so many plans for her and her daughter. I could tell by her social media she loved everything about her child. and she just wanted to be the best mother. She is forever a teen now. No one's life should be shortened for senseless gun violence. I am glad that Casey has family members that care and she can have a normal life somewhat. However, nothing is normal about losing both your parents so young to senseless violence like what her father did, and it has to stop happening. Because there are so many kids that are in the same position as Casey right now, and it is tragic to say the least. My condolences to Brooklyn's family and to all her loved ones. It's only been 4 short months at this time without Brooklyn, and there's still a lot of firsts that Brooklyn will miss to come in the future. And I just pray that her family can continue to try to heal from this horrific event. So don't forget to comment your thoughts and let me know what you think about this, because I believe that Keith wasn't honest on the stand, saying he had only been with her and no one else for the prior 2 months before Brooklyn passed away. And even if that was true, he probably already had what he had for the past 2 months and just didn't know it. But let me know how you feel. Also, don't forget to leave your prayers for this family still in this trying time. And don't forget to hit that like button and share. Keep your people aware. And as always, remember, stay woke. Things change quickly.